Hello, all you lovely people, and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Mortal Kombat 1 Khaos Reigns DLC again. Now, I've already made a video on this, but I wanted to make a video again, specifically talking about the user reviews that you will find on online platforms. And I'm talking about Steam reviews, I'm talking about Metacritic reviews. So let's quickly take a look at these platforms and see how this game has been received by users so far. Let me start off by going over to Metacritic. And this is a good platform to know how critics and users think about a game. I always go back to Metacritic. I'm just going to pause this video here and I'm going to go over to Metacritic to read some of the comments that are there. Now, because this is a new game, there haven't been a lot of reviews. So let's go about reading some of the reviews which are already there. Now, this has a user score of only 3.7. Now, that is surprising for a Mortal Kombat game because Mortal Kombat games have been loved by users so far. So let's see some of the reviews which are there on Metacritic, which are negative reviews. I'm not going to read the positive ones. So Rosie Reina says this has been a complete waste of time. Got a headache from how much it was long and boring. The only two things that was good was Empress Tanya and Emperor Rain. The rest was meh. All right. So I actually agree with Rosie Reina here because when I made my initial video on Mortal Kombat 1, I also actually commented on the same thing. I spoke about Emperor Rain and Empress Tanya and how I actually liked this alternative take on these characters. Rain was probably one of those characters which I absolutely disliked in the MK1 game. But I have had a complete 360 looking at this version here in Khaos Reigns DLC. So I understand where you're coming from, Rosie. And let's go over to the second negative one, which has a rating of only 1. Oh, now this comes from Akuma Asura. What an embarrassment for Mortal Kombat, changing the gender of characters to show some sort of woke propaganda. Will not buy for that. F woke, go broke. All right. Okay. Now, I have spoken about this in my previous video as well. So if you haven't already watched that, please go and check that out. Going woke or going broke. Now, there's this whole thing with the female equality and gender equality, rather, not female equality, gender equality. And I understand, see, I don't personally mind gender swapping. Now, if you don't already know, genders in these characters have already been swapped with Janet Cage when MK1 came out. So we had Janet Cage instead of Johnny Cage. But I don't think there was a lot of drama behind that. Now, the reason why people are actually talking about Sektor and Cyrax specifically, I think, in my personal opinion, all boils down to the narrative tie-in that these characters have. What do I mean by that? Again, I sound like a broken record right now, pointing to my previous video, but I have spoken about this where I've told that it does not matter if you want to swap genders as long as it services a particular character and the overall game's narrative. I really liked the whole cybernetic storyline that Mortal Kombat has had for years with these couple of characters, Sektor and Cyrax. And it was disheartening for me to see that that element was taken away. Now, Sektor, I can still kind of relate to in a way because it's tied into Noob Saibot's story. And I think there could be like this romantic angle there as well with Noob Saibot and with Sektor now. At least it very subtly hints at that. But Cyrax here in MK1 Khaos Reigns DLC, in my personal opinion, was a complete waste. I mean, from the story perspective, these characters don't service the game at all. Now, speaking about woke, again, see, I mean, this is a personal or a subjective matter, so I won't comment much on this, but you will see a lot of comments like this, not just on this platform, which is PlayStation 5, but even if I go over to PC, there's only one comment here, which is negative. and that is woke cringe. It's disgusting. The diversity is so forced. Rest of gameplay is okay. And this is again exactly what I spoke about in all my previous videos, where it should not feel forced. So here, I think there is an agenda which is being pushed or being forced onto us. And that should not be the case. If it feels organic, then I'm absolutely fine with it. But I think just for the sake of making characters female, please don't do that. If there is a reason behind that, yeah, we will back you up. In fact, we will fight for you. We will speak for you. And we will make sure that we speak positively about that. But here, I also agree with Gibe here. And I feel that overall diversity is so forced in some of these games now. So this is just Metacritic. And if I head over to Steam now, and if I go over comments now, by the way, there are only 29 comments and they are mostly negative, unfortunately. So let me go over to some of the negative comments here. All right, this one here, posted by Mr. Retro Nerd. I'm a big defender of the Netherrealm era, a big enjoyer of MK1, but the story mode is a total rip-off, bland story, mediocre plot, bad use of the new characters. Man, I mean, it's like he's reading my mind here. Make Havik a joke in story mode. I also feel that. And the cherry on top, you have to buy this to get the KP2 because of greedy management. Oh boy. I mean, here we go again. I think, yes. Warhammer Space Marines 2 was a good example of how you should actually do games without too many things that you have to buy in the game. I think that's just a bad move by publishers and studios where they just want to get more money off you. I think in the long run, it will just help the brand if they can keep this to a minimum. I don't say that, don't have in-app purchases or in-game purchases. Well, you can have that, but don't try to squander every nickel and dime that you can from gamers, is what I feel. Games, stay TF away from NR, you ruin everything you touch. Warner Brothers, he means. I think in this case, Warner Brothers, greedy management. Wait for a sale. Don't waste so much money on this like I did. Exactly my thoughts. Killpop says, I'd like to have the characters I paid for unlocked, but I guess you guys don't think so. Okay. So I'm just going to run this video on the side while I read these comments as well. It'll just make it a little more interesting. Do not buy this, bro. What was that story, bro? What cool gamer kid says. Spoken like a kid, yes, and a lot of emojis. I understand. Now, this one says, Noob Saibot and the guy from Scream are the only redeemable things. Again, exactly what I spoke about. When I made my first video on Khaos Reigns, I thought Noob Saibot was like the redeeming factor of this particular DLC. But $50 for 2 hours of cutscenes, you could say 3 hours, which are even shorter than the main story. Obviously, yes, because this is the DLC, and characters that could be sold separately is not justified at all. So there seems to be a common consensus here where people are actually talking about the price of the game, this DLC being overpriced. The story was absolutely lazy, says House of the Brothel. Interesting name. The characters' mid-fight dialogue are the same as before. Like, why would Titan Havik yell Seido for Saidens? I never wanted to play with Rain or Tanya again, let alone in the DLC. Just compare this to the MK11 Aftermath, which, by the way, was absolutely fantastic. Now, I think after they came up with the Aftermath DLC, they thought that, okay, let's make one for MK1 as well. But if Aftermath DLC is on one end of the spectrum, I think Khaos Reigns is on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of the quality of the story here and what you get for your money. From the visual perspective, production values are equally as good as Aftermath, if not better. I do not recommend buying this expansion for this costs. Too expensive for not much of a content, and I totally agree. The story has no purpose and the ending is so bad. I'm glad to know that ApeXITT also agrees. In fact, when this game ended, I had this thing in my mind. Have NetherRealm Studios lost the plot? Because the plot is wafer thin. And the ending especially will leave you with a big question mark. it definitely had one big question mark in my mind that is that it? Is this over? I mean, that's it? So these questions will come up in your mind. And when these type of questions plague your mind after playing this game, you will have that bitter taste in your mouth. And the whole experience that you got from MK11, which by the way was insanely good. It was a fantastic game. The Aftermath DLC, in fact, added to the game, to the main game. It just made it better. But here, MK1 was already not that great. The first half was fantastic, the second half, not so much. And it took the second half, which was the weaker half of the game, and it made that weaker half even weaker. Plus, okay, I'm just going to read the comment again. Plus, Cyrax and Sector ruin the immersion. I can't recommend this as an MK fan. And here, Meow Panica says story mode is awful. And I totally agree. So, not a lot of comments have actually come in, but the ones which have come in are unfortunately mainly negative. Now, me being a hardcore MK fan, it is very disheartening to see that. Can NetherRealm Studios fix this? I think they can. How can they fix this? I think they should have a third story DLC. That's how I think they can fix this. Because the noob saibot story in this case felt incomplete. And I think if they can bring that together in the third DLC, I think they can still redeem themselves. And if they price it lower, in fact, if they give it for free, that would be even better. Now, remember, even Ubisoft is extremely greedy when it comes to in app or in game purchases. But what they did with Assassin's Creed Odyssey was they gave a free DLC towards the end of its life cycle. That's phenomenal. I mean, it was like um, uh, a completely opposite thing of what a character would do or what a company like Ubisoft would do. And I think that in the case of MK1 is needed because I personally think that MK1 is losing its fan base and it's losing its credibility. These characters we've all loved over the last few years, and there's so many favorite characters of mine in Mortal Kombat. And whenever I have to refer to any fighting game, I don't go to Tekken, I don't go to Street Fighter, I don't go to Soul Calibur. I directly refer to Mortal Kombat. Now, this has always been that benchmark game for me when it comes to fighting games. Unfortunately, this is kind of losing the plot. And MK1 is actually an example of how it could be doing that. Now, again, I think there's still some glimmer of hope where if NetherRealm Studios do come up with a DLC which is competitively priced or free, I think fans are going to freak out in a positive way, that is. What do you guys think? Do you want a third DLC? Do you want to see Noob Saibot's story completed? And do you want to see any other villains? Because even MK1, I think, just had the same Shang Tsung. I was looking for something more than Shang Tsung. Maybe the Dragon King? Maybe a completely new villain who has never been seen in any of the Mortal Kombat games. So that would have been interesting, yeah? And I was just reading about Mortal Kombat and some of the cartoon characters before I got into this game. Now, interestingly, I found this particular image where Cyrax was a white dude and Sektor, in fact, was a black dude. So they have actually race swapped or color swapped these characters in the past in one of the animes or cartoons that they've had. I think this was from the cartoon called, which one is this? Defenders of the Realm. Yes, so this was from that. And they had color swapped these characters or race swapped. So it's not like NetherRealms is new at swapping things, but as long as they do it properly, it should still be fine because I think the cartoon was loved by people. They did not mind it. So there's no issue at the end of the day, whether you swap genders, whether you swap races, that's all right. I mean, you can have a black James Bond as well. We already have a black Superman, but hey, not black Clark Kent. We have Valzod, not black Clark Kent. I think sometimes you have to draw that line and say, no, enough is enough. Personally, would I want to see a black Clark Kent? I don't think so. In fact, I think that black Americans themselves would not want to see a black Clark Kent. They have Val Zod for that. So we have a black Superman. And again, please, whenever I speak about gender, whenever I speak about race, I have always commented that speak with love and respect. Now, all of us are human beings, whether we are a male, a female, whether we are black, brown, yellow. In my case, I am brown and yellow. I have Indian and Chinese roots. So I can completely understand because most of the jokes that I get to hear are on Indians and Chinese. So you get what I'm trying to say here. So at the end of the day, I think that there is a redeeming factor only if NetherRealm Studios now comes up with a third DLC, and I think they should. If you do want to see a third DLC, please let me know in the comment section. I've tried to give my 2 cents about this whole Mortal Kombat and why Mortal Kombat Khaos Reigns DLC and why it has been received negatively. What are your thoughts? Comment to me in the comment section and let me know. Again, even if you talk about LGBTQIA+, even if you talk about woke, I understand that people are passionate about certain subjects, but please come with love and respect in the comments. Let's not abuse one another. Let's not make fun of each other. And let's talk about it as adults and speak about it with love and respect. That's all I would request you guys to do, but I would request you guys to comment away. I want to hear your thoughts. So please comment away. And if you've liked the content, then I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit that like and subscribe button and also that bell icon in case you want to get notified with all my latest videos. But that's it for this video, folks. It's a wrap for this one. And I will see you lovely folks in my next video. Until that time, I'll say take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.